I love sports for a lot of different reasons. You fall in love with your team, you play on a team, youth, peewee, all that kind of stuff. But you eventually form rivalries, whether it's the town next to you, Brunswick alum, I hate you, Strongsville. I'm just kidding. But I really don't like Strongsville very much. You go from peewee to high school to college, you form these rivalries, and pro sports are a little bit different because I dare say that pro sports take something different. Like your hometown, you're a part of that. You live there. Your college, you chose that college. Pro sports are a little bit different in my opinion. Doesn't mean that they're any less rivalry filled. Doesn't mean you dislike your opponents any less. And when it comes to the Browns, we have this awkwardness to the start of the season where you get lined up against the AFC North a lot to start out the year. We're trying to make some waves, trying to change some things. Which team do you like beating the most in the North? We'll talk about it right here on the Matt Fontana Show. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Matt Fontana. Hey, it's producer Ryan, Big Play, iHeart app. Catch us out on YouTube as well. And, of course, streaming on our social medias. You can follow it at Matt Fontana Show for the live stream there. Got a lot to get to this morning as well. It was Guardian.
You had a loss for words, Matt.
What did I say about our Tipico boost yesterday? Guardians score 4 runs. Logan Allen strikes out 4, and they win. That's looking great up until the 8th inning. You know what? I honestly, I don't even know if we're going to talk Guardians outside of that. I'm so pissed off right now. I don't want to talk. And, I shouldn't because they're done. It's Friday, season's over, whatever. New NBA rules are coming out. That does hurt the Cavs a little bit. And the one thing the Browns have to do to clean up for week 2, that's coming up. We got Time Hop, the morning update. We'll take you up till 9 a.m. right here on the show. But we start with the weirdness in a little bit that the Browns open with Cincinnati. We are obviously playing Pittsburgh Monday night. We have Tennessee, and then you face Baltimore. 3 out of your first 4 games are against your division opponents. And the NFL has set this up where, the divisions, they're your built-in rivals, where it's just a lot of it is geographic, sure, but there are just long-standing rivalries where I truly think for the Browns, maybe even better than any of the other teams in this division, you have a built-in, a legit rivalry with all of your division opponents. We know the Ravens took our team. It's historic with the Steelers, and it's historic with the Bengals with Paul Brown and the fact that they're in our state. I don't see literally any other team in the NFL, any other division that has something quite like that. Yeah, the Bears and the Packers, okay, that's great. What do the Bears and the Vikings really have? What do the Lions and the Vikings really have? I mean, that's my whole point about where the Browns are at in this division. And now it's a flip, right? Where I'm not trying to put the cart before the horse, and this week is vitally important. Browns are back on the practice field later today. Monday night is going to be massive out there in Pittsburgh to establish what we want, to be able to say we're not the doormat of this division anymore, because that's how it's been. It's been 2 free wins, and you just kind of chalk it up to that. And I do think it's sad because it hurt the rivalry. It hurt. Where you weren't having these historic games against the Steelers anymore. You weren't having these historic games against the Ravens anymore. But now we enter this new era. And as Browns fans, it sucked because for a long time, we were the only ones that cared about that. We were the only ones that cared about the rivalry. Like, there was a point where Ryan, Northeast Ohio, do you have family friends that are Steelers fans or Bengals fans, or dare I say Ravens fans?
I have a couple friends that are Bengals fans, but family's all Browns, baby.
Good, okay. I have family that are Pittsburgh. I have friends that are Pittsburgh. I have friends that are Bengals. I thankfully have avoided all Ravens fans in my life, so they're kind of cut out. But they love giving me crap, right? And I've had nothing to fight them back. I've had no leg to stand on for a long time when it comes to and that's the whole point of rivalries. Like, yeah, I want the Browns to beat the Steelers. Why? So I can text my cousin and talk crap to him. And yes, I want the Browns to be 2-0. And yeah, I hate Pittsburgh, but it usually comes back to that, where you have somebody in your life, a coworker, a family member, that you get to text them, Tuesday after a Monday night game or Sunday afternoon as the game is going on, and you get to rub it in their face a little bit. It got to the point where the Bengals and the Ravens and the Steelers just beating up on us, it wasn't even fun anymore. Like, it wasn't even worth it to them anymore to talk crap about it. Things are changing. And I do believe there's something different about it. So as a fan, as our side of it, we never gave up on that. I know Steelers fans have had a shift. Steelers see the Ravens as their true rival, and the Ravens vice versa. The Bengals are just kind of there, and then obviously we were bringing up the rear. When for all the things that are built in, all of the teams in this division should look at us as their biggest rival, right? That's how it should be, and it's not because we haven't played good football for a long time. So we're going to ask this. We'll post this on Twitter, at Matt Fontana Show. Drop us a follow there if you can. Which team do you enjoy beating the most? Not the biggest rival, but to the point of which team gives you the most satisfaction when we beat them? Is it the Ravens, the Bengals, or the Steelers? We'll post that up at Matt Fontana Show. Hit us in the comment section there as well. You can tweet back at the show. I'm at Matt Fontana 83. I'm very close to 20,000, by the way, followers. Not to boast or brag. I think I need 6 more. So if you're out there listening and you haven't dropped the follow, help me out. Come on. I know something about it, Ryan. I've always wanted to get to the 2. You know, I think to get to the 2.
Yeah, Matt, I feel it. I'm trying to get to the 200.
Okay. Well, Ryan, what's your Twitter? It's on the screen, is it not? Pull
Ryan Tyler 33.
Drop him a follow. I'm one of your followers, Ryan. So drop Ryan a follow. Drop me a follow. Get him to 200 and get me to 20,000 on the Twitter side of things right there. And we need to get our show numbers up at Matt Fontana Show. Get it done right there. There's something to be said about all 3 of these teams. Like, it's gratifying and it's satisfying when you beat these teams, like any single one of them. And I've talked about before that I probably hate the Ravens more than I hate all the other ones. There's a healthy respect with the Steelers. And I like the Bengals are the one team that are closest to us, because there's times that they've sucked. There's been times that they've been really bad, and we're just kind of the lowly team. Now they don't really have that problem. They're pretty good. And beating them feels good. I think I prefaced this by saying, Ryan, it feels good to beat all of them. Like, I truly enjoy beating every single one of them. Sunday was awesome. Monday in Pittsburgh is a little bit different. And then even Baltimore. And then, okay, as I was thinking about this question, because, like, I think I'm a little jaded with Monday. Like, I think there's a little part of me that is jaded with Monday because it's in Pittsburgh and because it's Monday Night Football. Because I've said before, I hate the Ravens more than the other 2. Just something about them taking the team. Something about, they come off as pompous. And here's the thing. I like John Harbaugh. I think he's a good coach. I think there's good players on that team. I think Lamar Jackson's a very fun player to watch. It's not them. It's the Ravens. It's just the Ravens. Something about them is just pompous and annoying. I hate them, but I enjoy beating the Steelers more. And I think it comes back to the majority of Browns fans in this area. I think it kind of comes back to the Youngstown part of it, geographically. Most people dislike the Steelers more. And the Steelers rivalry is thicker, and it's just a little bit more there. So beating them means a little more. So it's weird for me where I hate the Ravens more, but I enjoy beating the Steelers more than I enjoy beating the Ravens. And I also think it has something to do with the fact of, yeah, the Steelers have stuck it to us just a little bit, a little more than I think the Ravens have. But there also is something that there was a time where the Browns kicked the crap out of the Steelers for a long time. Before most of our, or at least my time, your time, a lot of people out there watching, listening, not so much. They remember it a little more vividly when they were, Turkey Jones was dropping Terry Bradshaw on his head. Those were different times. And that's the flip of what it is. And I hope to get back there one day. But there's something about beating the Steelers that just does it a little more for me than the other teams. And that's weird because, again, I hate the Ravens more than I hate the Steelers. And I just can't explain it. Like, beating the Steelers just gives me more satisfaction than the other 2. And I think there's something, too, about they were the class of the division for a long time, and you want to be who they are. And I don't know, maybe it's just because, again, they have just mostly beat up on us for the long time. But I don't know, Ryan. I think the Steelers, they give me more satisfaction to beat them than anybody.
So for me, and this is a big part because I lived in Cincinnati for 4 years of my life, so I had to be exposed to the Bengals pride. And so anytime we beat the Bengals, I get to rub it in their faces, and it just brings me so much satisfaction. But like you said, yeah, the Steelers and Ravens, there is a bit of respect there because they've kicked us around and because we've seen them in my lifetime win a Super Bowl. And to me, it's like the Bengals, well, yeah, you went there, but you didn't win. You're 0-1. So I don't know what you're talking about. And so for me, it's the Bengals.
Yeah, and I get that because this is the in-state part of it, and I don't think there's a wrong answer when it comes to this. I'm a little jaded with Monday Night Football. And watch, we'll do this question next week after we beat the Steelers and we get ready for, I know we have Tennessee, but then Baltimore, we ask it where everybody be going Baltimore. It is fun. It is fun to have those legitimate rivalries against all of the teams. And how fun is it to actually be competitive now in this division? Been waiting my whole life. Now, we got to get there, and we got to get some wins, but I think Sunday was a great start. We'll dive back into the Browns. I actually really want to get ready for Monday. The Browns are back on the practice field a little bit later. Some of the things, and we'll get to this coming up at 9:30 this morning, CBS has the one thing that the Browns need to clean up for Game 2, and I actually very much disagree, but we'll get to that coming up. I do want to talk a little Steelers. We have rocked Joe Burrow to his core. We have done something to Joe Burrow. I actually think this is a giant sign of weakness from Joe Burrow. If you don't know what happened, what he did, we'll tell you about that, and we'll revisit our Twitter question. It's up at Fontana Show on Twitter. Which of the three division opponents do you enjoy beating the most? The Steelers, the Ravens, or the Bengals? Vote on that. Follow. We're getting to 2. The big number is 2 today. 20,000 for me, 200 for Ryan on Twitter. Drop us a follow there. Just getting started. We'll take you up to 11 a.m. this morning right here on Big Play. It's the Matt Fontana Show. Streaming live, iHeart app. We're up on YouTube and, of course, social media. Stay with us. Browns Steelers Monday Night Football. I don't get much better than that. Oh, wait, it can because the Browns are 1-0 and the Steelers are 0-1. I do have a little kind of a take on where the Steelers are at, but our Twitter question is up at Matt Fontana Show. Welcome back right here on Big Play, iHeart app, and of course streaming live YouTube and the social medias at Matt Fontana Show. Our Twitter question this morning, we already got one over the Bengals. You face the Steelers Monday night. In 2 weeks, you got the the Baltimore Ravens, not the Bills. We play the Bills this year? No, we don't play the Bills. No. Kind of wish we did, though. I've had takes on this show. I think the Bills are going to suck. That kind of came to fruition, didn't it? But that's another story for another day. We play Baltimore in a couple of weeks. And our Twitter question is, of the 3 teams in the AFC North, which one do you enjoy beating the most? And I think it's different than which rivalry do you view the biggest, because it's just the one that gives you you enjoy the most. What gives you the most satisfaction? When we beat the Ravens, when we beat the Steelers, or we beat the Bengals. I've said it's the Steelers. There's just something about that mystique, just something about beating that team that's kind of had it over on us. We'll see. Ryan said Cincinnati. He lived in Cincinnati, so he had to deal with it a little bit. Our Twitter question this morning, at Matt Fontana Show. Which team do you enjoy beating the most? The Steelers are out to a 70% lead. It's basically split 70-15-15. 70% the Steelers, Ravens and Bengals 15% each. Robert tweets, seriously, based on the last 25 years of existence, I'd just be happy with any win. Robert, got to change that mindset, bro. Can't be that way anymore. We actually have to feel like there's an element of we need to believe that we belong. There's an old saying, Ryan, if you make them believe that you belong, they believe you belong. And that's usually when you're trying to sneak into something and just walk past somebody. If you act like you belong, they think you belong. We need to start, we should be beating these teams. Not all the time, but it should be that healthy rivalry. It should be the back and forth. And we just need to change that a little bit. Pat tweets, it's whatever teams or city talks the most crap leading up to the game. They're mad their cities are subpar at best. Go Browns. I don't know. Okay. Baltimore's pretty cool. I like the Inner Harbor. Okay, the Baltimore is fine. Cincinnati, Ryan, you live there. I'm sorry. There ain't much going on down there in Cincinnati.
There's chili.
That we've discussed that. The disgustingness that is that. The river. There's not much going on. Pittsburgh is fine. Pittsburgh is a lot like, it looks a little like Cleveland, right on the water. I know Cincinnati is too. Actually, Baltimore is too. Isn't that weird? Never really thought about that. A lake, 2 rivers, and an ocean. There you go. But they're all fine. The talking crap. So now apparently it's happening again. I guess the Steelers are out there, and I want. Do you want to talk about the Steelers going into Monday night? Because there is that element of they're dangerous, right? People think that them getting beat up and just getting smoked in week 1 is a bad thing. Because they go, the Steelers, they always rebound in that. And I'm here to tell you, this is a different team. This is not Ben Roethlisberger and Jerome Bettis and Hines Ward and all these veteran players. That's a second-year quarterback in Kenny Pickett who got smoked. That is a team that was not getting the football to George Pickens and Najee Harris, or their 2 best offensive players. All week, it's been trending that their offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, should be losing his job. Apparently that guy is inept. I don't follow the Steelers very much, but just from some of the things I've heard and coming out of Pittsburgh, this is one of the worst coaches in NFL history, apparently, is Matt Canada. So you bottle all of that up, right? And I get where people would be on alert to say, yeah, man, the Steelers, they really rebound well. I don't see that, right? I see this as a different team. Dare I say, do the Steelers suck?
I want to give a quick shout out to our show writer, Dollar Dog Nick, on Twitter, because I was rolling on Twitter last night. It was hilarious. He compared Najee Harris and Kenny Pickett to Brandon Whedon and Trent Richardson.
Are we that far off? Wait a minute. Najee Harris played where? Trent Richardson played where?
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, baby. Woo! Speaking of sucking, the Alabama Crimson Tide, I think they do suck. They're missing the playoffs this year. Seriously, dude, I don't think I've ever been, because last year, yes, we all thought they were going to suck, but there was it's kind of a built-in excuse. You moved on from Roethlisberger, you went with Kenny Pickett. I guess you almost kind of washed that away, but if and I'm going to say when, because I'm going to stay positive about it, when we beat them Monday night, the Steelers suck. They might legitimately suck. Be the first time basically in my life that I can say that.
Matt, if you were to put money on this today, do you think this is the first year Tomlin finishes with a under 500 record?
Yeah, I hope so. Like that is one of the things that always keeps coming up. Even last year, when it was something that everybody said that would have been the year, right? That would have been the year for them to finish below 500, and they still didn't. And Pickett had to finish the season out on a high note, and he had to have this stretch. And there is a part that it's San Francisco, and San Francisco might be the best team in football. Like, they might truly be. But they kicked the ever-living hell out of them. Like, to the point where they didn't even give Najee Harris carries. Like, I was reading on Warren Sharp, Sharp Analytics does a lot of things, and he did a fantasy football breakdown for the Browns and Steelers. He does them for every game. And I was looking at Najee Harris's snap total. Jalen Warren, who's their backup, was like 6 snaps behind him or something like that because they didn't run the football. They couldn't. Now, game got out of hand. They had to turn it over to Pickett. Didn't he throw it 40-odd sometimes in that game? Then the funny thing was, here's one of the funniest stats going back to that Steelers debacle. That Allen Robinson, had more targets than George Pickens did. And then we got into the Pickens allegedly IG was liking this or liking that. I don't know. The Steelers might really be on a precipice of being sucky. They could be on this teeter right now. And I would love nothing more for the Browns to come in and just
Don't hurt yourself.
I want to break it. Just kick them. Just kick them right over the edge, right into hell, right into the abyss. I would love nothing more than to do that. And there's a chance that we could do that come Monday. If we just, and I'm not talking about some walk-off Dustin Hopkins kick. I'm talking about 35-10 smoke them. Just smoke them on Monday Night Football in Pittsburgh. Because then they're going to wake up and go, well, maybe it's time to move on from Mike Tomlin, or maybe it's time to fire Matt. And I would love nothing more than that. Like, there would be nothing, and that kind of goes back to our Twitter question this morning about which team do you enjoy beating the most? That's why it would be the Steelers for me. Not just for this game coming up on Monday, not just because of what it could mean, but we owe them so much. We owe them so much. And in fact, like, going back to the expansion era, one of my favorite wins of all time was that, I always get it confused, it was either Sunday or Monday night. We sacked Roethlisberger 7 times and beat him. Remember that game? It was cold. It was snow on the ground. I was in college. My buddies and I went to the bar. We were sitting there and just watching us just sack Ben Roethlisberger over and over and over and over and over again was one of my favorite ones. And then, truly my favorite game since 1999 was when we walked into Pittsburgh, snap over Roethlisberger's head on snap number 1. He's crying on the sidelines after the game because we kicked him out of the playoffs in Pittsburgh. It's the Steelers, man. It's the Steelers. It's the Steelers. And I can't, like, to go back to they'll rally the troops or they'll be, I think it's different. I truly see this as being a different team. And if you want to come back with the Mike Tomlin side of it, okay, I'll get that. And this is one of the, I go back and forth on the coaching thing in football, right? Because as good as Mike Tomlin is, and he has Super Bowls, I get that, right? There is only so much that he can do, right? It's like anything. Players can only do so much before you got to lean on the coach, and the coaches can only do so much before you start leaning back on the players. And this is something where I have an immense amount of respect for Mike Tomlin. That is the Steelers thing aside. That's the same thing with Harbaugh in Baltimore. I think they are 2 very good head coaches. Yes, am I a little jealous? We got Kevin Stefanski. Things are good now, but there were times that I go, man, I wish I had one of those guys here. That all aside. He can only do so much when he's got to sit there and go, yeah, these legend players aren't here anymore. And if that comes off as me crapping on Kenny Pickett, maybe. I know the biggest thing about Pickett and something that did kind of concern me was, Ryan, he finished the year on a tear. The last, I think, 9 games of the year, Kenny Pickett played to a top 10 quarterback level. Okay, well, it's not 2022 anymore. And it was 1 game. It was one game of him looking bad against a defense that, might be one of the best in all of football. Take that for what it's worth. Well, now he comes up against a team that should be, and by statistics after week 1, is a top 5 defense. See the PFF stat this morning? There were only 2 teams in the NFL in week 1 that didn't give up a play of over 15 yards. The Cleveland Browns. You want to guess the other one?
Is one the Cowboys?
No, good guess.
Okay.
Though.
Was one the 49ers?
No.
Really?
It's not.
Interesting.
It was not. 0, I'm sorry, 15-yard pass play.
Okay.
They did not give up a 15-yard pass play in week 1.
Okay.
It would be the Browns and the Atlanta Falcons.
Wow.
The Atlanta Falcons, who they beat. Did they stun the Panthers? Oh, yeah, Bryce Young was not good at that game. So anyway. So sorry, 15-yard pass play. Shout out to PFF. They had that stat yesterday. So you now flip it for Pickett, and we're playing. You go from the 49ers defense, who's very good, to the Browns defense, who just blitzed the hell out of Joe Burrow. And that's not the only thing they did to Joe Burrow. Did everybody see what happened to Joe Burrow? He cut his hair, folks. Joe Burrow, good-looking dude. He's got a lot going on for him, man. Got a lot of money, franchise quarterback, good-looking guy, cigar aficionado from what I can tell and understand. Living the life. He got so rocked that he cut his hair. Out of practice yesterday, he had the flowing locks and he cut his hair. And he jokingly admitted after practice that the Browns' loss forced him to cut his hair. I don't know, ha. Okay, funny. Can I make a leap here for a second? Can I just follow me for just a quick second on this? We're going to clip this and we're going to send this out and people are going to call me a loon. He just admitted how mind-blanked he is by the Browns. And Matt, he just cut his hair. What does it matter? That is a defense mechanism. That is him trying to laugh it off and trying to just say, oh, yeah, the Browns own Joe Burrow. He cut his hair because of that game. And I get that it's a joke, and I understand that I'm making a mountain out of a molehill with this. But seriously, we thought that before the game, right? We thought, we really played Joe Burrow tough, and Myles Garrett's doing crossover moves. And, J.J. Watt was on the Pat McAfee show yesterday, and Watt said he was basically telling the offensive line what he was going to do. It was a basketball move, and what did he do? He crossed him over, and they still couldn't block him. We are so in Joe Burrow's head. And once you get there, is there ever truly a way out? I know that I'm making a leap here. I know that this is something that sounds crazy, but I'm jumping on this horse and I'm riding it till it dies. That it's a little of the reverse of Ben Roethlisberger coming here. Roethlisberger would show up in Cleveland, walk into that damn stadium and laugh because he just knew he wasn't going to lose. We tied once and whatever, fine. But that is the mental psyche part of the game. When you just look over and you see somebody and you just go, yeah, they got me or I got them. And if tell me I am, and listen, I understand it, that I could be reading too much into this. But the fact that we forced Joe Burrow to cut his hair tells you that the Browns are mind blanking him. I know I can technically say that word on here. We're just streaming. It's not the FCC, but I don't know. Maybe the kids are home from school today. I don't know. I don't. We are so mind blanking Joe Burrow. It feels good.
Matt,
Feels
I'll tell
damn
you
good.
this. I am a big proponent of a good haircut will change your outlook on life.
I love haircuts. Shout out to my guys, Sean and Jason, Irish Barber, right there. Sean is. I love Sean because he owns the bar next door. And can I tell you a quick story? So the morning of my wedding, I had to go get a haircut. Get my beard lined up, get ready to go. And I walk in and I see Sean, and he knew it was the day. And obviously Sean, they're very, very popular. And he had a line, and he knew I was going to be there. And he goes, I'll tell you what, man. He goes, go over to the bar next door and pour yourself a pint. Sean is straight. He's Irish. Like, he came over from Ireland when he was a kid. And that's why it's the Irish Barber. So he owns Gormley's next door. So I go, okay, cool. And this was like, I don't know, 10 o'clock, 9:30 in the morning on a Saturday. My wife and I are getting married. So I go over next door to Gormley's, just walk right across the parking lot. And I walked in, and they had, they're the home of a lot of rugby, like backers clubs and all that. So there was like 9:30 on a Saturday, but there were a ton of people in the bar watching like rugby or something. So I walk over, the bartender goes, hey, Matt, congratulations. What do you want? And I was like, I don't know, I'll have a Smittix, I guess. So she pours me a Smittix. And granted, it's the morning of my wedding. And I'm, you're nervous and all kind of stuff. Ryan, I sat down with this Smittix, started watching Union rugby, like European rugby. I looked down. I'd been sitting there for an hour and a half, and I was late to get home to get dressed and get to pictures. I like looked down. I was like, "Oh my god!" I get up. I run next door to Sean. I go, "Sean!" And he goes, "What?" And he goes, "Oh my god, I forgot." He goes, "I forgot you were over there." I felt so bad, dude. He almost threw somebody out of the barber chair, told everybody in the room like he's getting married today and he's late for pictures. I sit in and of course you can't rush the haircut. So he gets my haircut lineup and my phone is blowing up. It's my parents and my brothers. They go, "We're at your house. Where are you? Like, what is going on?" I get done, get a haircut. I fly home. I pull in the driveway, screeching tires, get my suit on. Oh my God, it was such a morning. So you talk about a good haircut. That's my most memorable haircut of all time. But shout out to Sean and Jason at the Irish Barber. Would you like to shout out your barber? Do you have a consistent barber?
I did when I was in Cincinnati. I had a great one, but now
looking here.
Now here I'm still looking for.
All right, come on. I'm gonna take you to Sean.
If anybody has any recommendations,
Irish
let
barber.
me know.
Shout out to West Park, Rugged Gentleman in Rocky River. Shout out to Luke. I've been there before. Really good job. We are very blessed with some good barbers in town. We have a lot of good barbers here in Cleveland. I don't know about good barbers in Cincinnati. Obviously, Joe Burrow found one. His hair looked fine. It looked all right. But the fact that we are so into his head that he cut his hair just warms my heart. All right, we'll update our Twitter question when we return. We're up at Matt Fontana Show. Of the three AFC North opponents, which ones do you enjoy beating the most? We'll take your barber recommendations for Ryan in the Twitter inbox, by the way. Are you West Side or East Side?
East Side.
East Side, okay. East Side's a little out of my realm. I'm a West Sider, so like again, I know I got Lakewood for you. I got a West Park. I got Sean and Jason in River. So
Macedonia, Ohio, to be more specific.
Okay. Also, I'll send a text. I got a buddy who lives in North. We'll find you one out that way. Or I mean,
I'll hype it up and then I'll debut it on the show.
Well, I'll tell you this though. A 45-minute, half-hour drive for a good haircut is worth it.
Oh,
that is well worth it. So, like, if we need to bring you on over to the West Side, where I know you'll be in good hands with some of the ones I mentioned. Mike's is another one. My father-in-law goes to Mike's there in Lakewood. So we'll get you one, but we'll take your barber recommendations as well in the Twitter inbox. CBS went through the one thing that each team needs to fix for week 2. I'll tell you what the Browns one is, but I also want to tell you what the Steelers one is as we get ready for Monday Night Football. The Browns one, got a little bone to pick with that one. We'll get to that and keep voting on our Twitter question up at Matt Fontana Show. The one AFC North team you enjoy beating the most: Steelers, Ravens, Bengals. Vote on that. Back right after this on Big Play. All right, football's all about adjustments. Life, in a way, is all about adjustments. There's some things the Browns got to clean up for week 2, some things the Steelers got to clean up for week 2. CBS Sports ran through every team and gave the one thing that they have to fix going into week 2. I'll tell you about the Browns and the Steelers. Welcome back. Matt Fontana Show right here on Big Play, iHeart app, and, of course, we are streaming on YouTube and up on our social medias. Check the iHeart app out, though, as well. I know Dave just tweeted it. Reflog just retweeted it. The links are posted on my Twitter at MattFontana83 right there at the top. Take us with you wherever you go. Download the iHeart app. All you got to do is search Big Play when you're on there, and you get a live stream of us, Chico starting at 12, and then, of course, you get replays throughout the day of Reflog and Bobby and Bernie and Marie and Josh and Booby and all that kind of stuff. And you're going to want to download it for tomorrow. We have a massive guest in studio tomorrow. We will tell everybody in the 10 o'clock hour what that is. We'll tell you a little later.
Maybe we should have maybe give a hint and have them guess. That could be fun.
Okay, we can have people guess. Okay. All right, my first hint is this, and this is not like hyperbole. He is, in my opinion, this is my list. This is the Matt Fontana list of growing up in Cleveland and being a fan of the area for a long time. He is one of the most athletic people I've ever seen in my life, ever. So there's hint number 1, and we'll I like that, Ryan. We'll give everybody a little hint every little segment, and we'll make the announcement a little bit later in the show. Barber shops are coming in, though, for you, so I'll get to those in a little bit as well. Tweet those at MattFontana83, at Ryan Tyler33. Ryan needs a good East Side barber for all you Clevelanders out there, so help us out. I got the West Side covered, and we'll take good barbers everywhere. Like, you said you're Nordonia, like Brunswick, Medina, Strongsville. That's not that far from you.
No, it's
go down 71 and shoot over.
I used to actually work out in Strongsville, so not a bad drive at all.
There you go. So let's find a barber for Ryan here on the show. Things that need to be fixed for the Browns and the Steelers. This comes from our friends at CBS Sports, and Jeff Kerr posted that this morning. It's funny because some of this can be very specific. The other ones are pretty obvious. Like for the Bills, tell Josh Allen to stop turning the football over. Yeah, well, when you throw 3 interceptions, that's pretty easy. A lot of these are quarterback-driven, too. The Bears, let Justin Fields take more shots down the field. Things like that. For the Browns, it's tell Deshaun Watson to stay aggressive. Jeff writes, in better conditions, which I think is the biggest caveat to this whole thing. In better conditions, Watson might have had a bigger day throwing the football. His average depth of target was 4th in the league as the Browns receivers were getting open against the Bengals secondary, but he was also 3rd in intended average air yards. So he took chances when given the opportunity. The Browns offense needs to keep that approach. So what Jeff is saying is not so much that the Browns were not aggressive. It's that they were, he just wasn't completing it, and you need to stay in that mindset, and you need to keep pushing the football down the field. That is one of the things when we talk about Deshaun Watson, about what we expect out of him, right? This was one of the things that when you brought him here, you believed that you'd be able to take advantage of that. And when he was in Houston, you got to match it with personnel. He had DeAndre Hopkins and Brandon Cooks, and those guys can fly. Well, not so much Hopkins. He's not so much a burner, but Cooks could. Now you have with what the Browns should have. Marquise Goodwin's your speed guy. I think Elijah Moore can be your speed guy. And there's something to be said about Amari Cooper. His route running, which we know is some of the best in the league, and it's so precise. Ryan, there's something about Amari Cooper over the middle. Like, there's just something about Amari Cooper going over the middle that he gets open, he finds that soft spot, and him and Watson are working on that chemistry, which is great to see. But I'm talking about, 15, 20 yards over the middle. And I think my bone to pick with this stay aggressive part of it is I wouldn't mind some of the shorter stuff to start. And that's not me afraid of what Watson can do or afraid of interceptions. Like, I know Stefanski, there's nothing more in this world that annoys Kevin Stefanski other than interceptions. Like, he hates turning the football over. That's his number one rule. I want to get some easy completions. We all know they script plays to start the game, right? I need like 4 or 5, the first 4 or 5 passes for Deshaun Watson. I need high completion percentage. He's got to get last week out of his mind, because here's what's going to happen. I know he's going to practice all week. They're back in the practice field today. They're going to throw and all that kind of stuff. it's still going to be in his head, I think, the wet football and trying to overcome and maybe even overcompensating what he was doing last week with the wet football. Get him some easy completions to start and let the juice start flowing a little bit and then start taking some shots down the field.
Yeah, and if you remember or recall watching when Zach Wilson came in for Aaron Rodgers, one thing I noticed was...
Oh, boy, do I.
One thing I noticed was, to start out that first drive, he was just throwing 3 5-yard out routes and like right over the middle and just get comfortable. And that in turn, you could see his next drive, he looked a little more poised, and especially, but he was in a more kind of tense situation, obviously, than Deshaun is. But it is an underrated fact. Get out to a good rhythm and you'll be flowing the rest of the game.
Well, and as Jeff writes here, again, 3 and 4 for intended air yards and average depth of the route run. That is the change. Like, people wanted to talk so much about what this offense was going to look differently this year. I'm telling you, that's it. And it's not saying that we didn't have guys here that had strong arms before. Baker Mayfield had a strong arm. He did. And I think they tried to set it up that way. Maybe didn't work so much. I don't know. Then you've got to meld it with the receivers. If you don't have guys that can go up and get the football or guys that can stretch the field, you're going to have a problem with that. But that is going to be what I think this offense flips to the most. Getting guys down the field, average depth of route run going up, and being able to use Watson. I tell you this, and it's not... I know I get sucked into it. I'm a Browns fan through and through. But, Ryan, I've seen things with Deshaun Watson, just even at the facility, even going to practice. He throws a football differently than any quarterback I've ever seen. I don't want you to guess the other quarterback that throws a football that I've never seen before.
I almost think I can get it right now.
Go ahead.
Is it Phillip Rivers?
No. I'm talking about Browns quarterback. Of all the years that I've covered the Browns and all the years that I've been out at the facility and a part of like covering the team, there are 2 quarterbacks that stand above the rest on how they throw the football. Deshaun Watson is one. Who's the other one? You might be overthinking it. He was pretty famous for how his football. This sounds vulgar, and I apologize. His ball was pretty. He threw a pretty ball.
Was it Tim Couch?
No, I'm not that old, Ryan.
Okay.
Jeez, how long do you think I've been covering the team? No, not Tim Couch. I'm sure Tim had a pretty ball too, but I wasn't there to see it. I don't know. Brandon Weeden.
Oh.
Brandon Weeden. And remember, because he was doing that thing on not the next gen stats, but like that thing, and he was busting clay pigeons. He was throwing clays, and he would just hit him with a football. Bro, I tell you that he threw the tightest spiral of any, and that's me, again, covering the team. These are professional athletes. These are quarterbacks. Some have stronger arms than others. He threw a football that you could hear. It whistled past you. That's how strong of an arm Brandon Weeden had. I don't know if he had anything else meaningful to play the quarterback position in the NFL, but he had that. But back to Watts. So again, Weeden and Watson stand above the rest of all the quarterbacks that I've ever seen. And with Watson, like, the funny thing was that was kind of a knock of his coming out of college. Like, his big thing was always super accurate on the intermediate and short stuff. He didn't really have it. Bro, he got it. He found it. I don't know where he did it, but he found it. He throws a good deep ball. And the receivers we have, I think, are serviceable in that. You don't have a Tyreek Hill per se. I know it can be Marquise Goodwin to trying to stretch it, but I think that's going to be a big thing for this team. I think it's going to be a massive thing for this team is the depth and trying to stretch it out. So I to that point about CBS and Jeff this morning writing about staying aggressive, I agree with it. All right, the one thing quickly for the Steelers. So again, CBS Sports this morning, the thing that every team needs to fix going into week 2. For the Browns, they said stay aggressive with Deshaun Watson. For the Steelers, run the football. And I get it because, and I said the same thing this morning, the Steelers only had 10 carries in that game. Najee Harris only had 6 for 31. And Jeff writes, it's easier said than done when a team faces a 20-point deficit midway through the second quarter. Going 3 and out on 4 of their first 5 possessions with an interception on the other one could be avoided by giving the ball to Najee Harris. That's on Matt Canada. That guy's having a bad week, man. Because everybody is just on Matt Canada in Pittsburgh, like saying that he's the offensive coordinator, by the way. Just saying, like, dude, he is just absolutely horrible. Like, there's no way that he's the right thing. I want to find one more thing here real quick, because we're going to talk some Cavs coming up. Big news out of the NBA. They've updated this sit-out rule. That's basically what it is. It impacts the Cavs, and I think in a big way. But we'll get to that coming up. One final thing I want to bring up on the running back position. This was from Warren Sharp in Sharp Analysis. When it came to Najee Harris, he played 33 snaps. 33 snaps, and he only touched the ball 8 times. Jaylen Warren played 25 snaps. That was it. And he matched Najee Harris's 8 touches. That is something that if we keep it to that level, that is going to be awesome. The Browns, by the way, in week 1, finished 24th in the NFL, allowing 4.4 yards per carry to Cincinnati. That was 24th in the NFL. That is something that people were freaking out with. If they'd have thought to maybe run Joe Mixon a little bit more. I'm not trying to be negative about it, but we look good sacking Joe Burrow and getting in his face. They found some runs in that game. Cincinnati did. And I hope Pittsburgh isn't smart enough to figure that out. We're throwing bouquets at Jim Schwartz this week as we should. That run defense got to step up a little bit. I agree with Jeff's saying and what Warren's saying. Run the football is going to be big for Pittsburgh come Monday night. Let's talk some basketball. There's a new rule in the NBA. It's really going to maybe hurt the Cavs and how they approach things. With resting some of their players. How far is Coventry from your house? I've got a line here on Eddie's Barbershop in Coventry. Apparently they have free cookies. Somebody said.
I'm going to have to take a look at it. It's called Eddie's?
Eddie's. EDDY in Coventry. So that's our suggestion. Ryan needs a barber in town, so we're looking for one.
I appreciate all the
write that down. We're looking for more East Side if you're out there. Stop. Great Clips. I went to hey man, I'm not knocking Great Clips. I went to Great Clips for a long time growing up.
Great Clips is one of those things for me. It's 50-50. I either walk out really happy or I walk out looking horrible.
That was when you were a kid, it was just you would go get your haircut before school, really started, and then usually once during the season, whatever. That's kind of how it rolled the Fontana. I have 4 brothers. My parents had 5 boys. We have 5 boys in the household. So it was literally just an event where we'd all get in the car and just walk in. They probably were crapping themselves. Here come the Fontana clan. Got to sit down all these kids and just, but it was real easy. It was just a 3 and a 6, just done and done. Now that I've gotten older, I enjoy getting my hair cut, beard lined up, all that kind of stuff. But I say that to say this. Do you know what the Flowbee is? Have you ever heard of the Flowbee?
What wasn't that something you could cut your own hair?
Yeah,
or something like that?
And so it's a long-standing joke in my family about the Flowbee because we had one growing up. You would attach it to a shop vac. Some people out there that are watching and listening right now, you are going back to an era of the Flowbee. And it was this attachment that I don't even have anything in studio to really recreate it. You would get a shop vac and you'd pull the hose out on the shop vac and you would attach this thing to it, plug it into the wall, and there was a clipper. And you could put guards on it. So if you wanted a 2 or a 1 or a 4 or whatever, you put it on, and then you just cut your hair. And then the idea was that the shop vac would suck the hair out of the Flowbee and also pull it up into the cutting apparatus, so to speak. Flowbees were good time. We'll just buy you a Flowbee. How about that? You don't even go to the barber ever again. Let's get the Flowbee. Just done and done. Got to talk Cavs. I think they're getting screwed by this new NBA rule, and I really think this new NBA rule is wrong. I'll tell you what it is and why. Fontana Show, Big Play, iHeart, YouTube, social media. Stay with us. So the NBA has clarified some of their things when it comes to this new anti-sitting policy, which is kind of weird. Like I made that up. It's something different. But they have a new rule in the NBA where you cannot sit certain number of star players in a game without facing massive fines, like 7-figure fines coming down for NBA teams if they sit their stars, which seems extremely counterproductive to me, which seems like something that, I don't know, should maybe even be illegal. I don't know how that'll work out. We'll discuss it right here. Welcome back. Big Play, iHeart app, and stream, of course, on YouTube. Matt Fontana Show and Matt Fontana Show on Twitter. So we discussed this a little yesterday on the show, Ryan, where this new NBA rule is coming out. They came up with this name. I always have thought about if somebody started a firm or a consulting firm where they just come up with names for things. This is the player participation policy, the PPP, of course. Today, Adam Silver clarified, and this went through yesterday. So this player participation policy, it was voted unanimously, passed yesterday, to approve tougher resting policy rules and punishment for star players who sit out games, including national TV games and in-season tournaments. And then for regular season games, having multiple star players sit out in a game. So we backtrack just for a second. This is something that the NBA saw a massive rise in over the last couple of years, where it's the night of a back-to-back in the middle of January. It doesn't mean anything. And star player X, LeBron, Kevin Durant. Well, I have so much of LeBron, but Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, Giannis, Luka, they sit out of a game. It's a back-to-back. What does it matter? And then you had this big hubbub. And really it started, I think, with the fans, right? Because fans say, hey, this is an away game. I'm a giant Luka Doncic fan. He comes to town, he doesn't play. Don't forget that that's where that started. Now, I'm not saying that it didn't eventually get to the network level, because that's what the NBA is worried about here. They're worried about the billions of dollars that they're getting from ESPN and TNT to play their games. That's where that don't look any further than that. But it really did start with the fans. And I felt bad for that, because I can imagine, I'm a father, if my son was a giant Giannis fan, and the Bucks are different because they're in a division, but still, they come to Cleveland once. Okay, my son is a giant LeBron fan. He loves Dame Lillard for as long as he's in Portland. I like Dame Lillard. So Dame Lillard, I'm a giant Dame Lillard fan. And he's coming to Cleveland, and I only get to see him once a year, and he already played 2 games this week. He's coming off this knee injury. He's going to sit. And I paid hundreds of dollars to go see him, and now I'm going to be there. That's really where it all started. Now, they're getting into the networks freaked out. They go, hey, wait a minute. This is ways that we can negotiate and get something over here on the NBA. So here's how it works. So initially, they adopted resting rules about 5 years ago. And the rules mandated that if you wanted to win a postseason award, All-NBA, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, you had to participate and play in 65 regular season games. And you would have thought that polices itself. Because if you don't make an All-NBA team, you then don't become eligible for the Supermax deals that are in place. So it seems to help. You got to play 65 games, and then you can make All-NBA. Obviously, if you only play in 65, that hurts your chances because you got to be on for all those 65. And if you don't make All-NBA, then you're going to lose money on your Supermax deal and all that kind of stuff moving forward. I get it. I understand it. But obviously, that was not enough because the teams come back and they have all this data. They have all this scientific proof that says sitting these guys at specific times will help keep them healthy, and who gives a damn about the regular season? It's the LeBron model. Did we ever care about the regular season here in Cleveland? No. You just wanted to make the playoffs, and you just wanted to get to the finals. So now the NBA sees their bottom line start getting hurt, right? And again, that's all that matters. Don't ever forget that. It's all that matters is the money. So here's how it's going to work. Any team cannot sit 2 star players in one game. What is a star player, you ask? It is any player that has made an all-star or all-NBA team in the previous 3 seasons. In total, 25 teams and 50 players are impacted by the new rules, including 15 teams that have had multiple players who were named All-NBA or to an All-Star game in the previous 3 seasons. That would be the Cleveland Cavaliers. Darius Garland, or not Evan Mobley, but Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell. Wait, does no, because Evan Mobley made all defensive team, not all NBA. He just made all defensive.
Right, so it's just Darius, Donovan, and Jared Allen.
But still, that's 3. That's a lot on this team. So again, there's your rule. So basically, as it sits right now, the rule from the NBA is outside of a serious injury, which I'm assuming is a thing, where if you put them on the injured list, like they're out. But you need to hear it out. Okay. This is what was said from Adam Silver. This is an acknowledgement that it's gotten away from us in a bit, particularly, I think, when you see young, healthy players that are resting. So if you're hurt, you're hurt. You're out. That doesn't count. But if there's a night that JB Bickerstaff says, I really think I keep saying Evan Mobley. He's going to be all NBA one day. But he says, Darius and Jared Allen, I think they need to sit tonight. You can't do that. You have got to strategically stagger them to figure it out. Because if you don't, the fines will begin with $100,000 for the first, $250,000 for the second, and a $1 million for each additional fine beyond that. $1 million potentially for sitting your star players.
Matt, do we know how long they have to play in the game? Like, could we put Jared Allen in the starting lineup? He's doing the jump ball, and then are we able to sub him out, and that counts as a start? Do we know yet?
So so here's what was sent out. This is a memo. This was the league memo. Make sure you put your TPS report on. But this is the league memo that was sent out based on enforcement will be based on league office investigations. Okay, here we go. Teams must manage their roster to ensure that no more than one star player is unavailable for the game. Like we talked about. So again, like for the Celtics, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are in the same game unless they're both injured. Okay, number 1. Number 2, teams must ensure that star players are available for nationally televised and in-season tournament games. So they're saying in just a random Tuesday night, you can't sit Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, but for a nationally televised game or an in-season tournament game, you can't sit either one of them. Okay, interesting. Number 3, teams must refrain from any long-term shutdown when a star player stops participating in a game or plays in a materially reduced role that affects the integrity of the game. That's for you, Ryan. You cannot start them and sit them down. You can't have the jump ball and sit them down. Under scenario, and also with this too, like at the end of the year when they're out of it, like the Portland Trailblazers just shut down Dame Lillard, which I think this is the part, and I know we got to get to the morning update. That is the part that I think is just completely asinine. The NBA seems to be cutting off their nose to spite their face in this. You do not have a league without these star players. Why would you force them to play when it doesn't matter? So in this, and I'm talking about just this specific thing, right? Where the Trailblazers sucked and Dame Lillard was banged up and they sat him out. That is technically now a fine under the NBA. Why? So then Dame Lillard gets hurt and misses part of this season? And then you go back to just the totality of this whole thing, right? Where can they do that? Literally, can they force these players to play? I do not understand this. I don't. And the thing is, they're saying, well, we're forcing them to play when they're not, when they're healthy. Healthy is a relative term. How many turned ankles do we see in the NBA? Every week, every game, right? Yeah, you're injured, but are you back to the full, like that's just all that kind of stuff that gets into it. And then you are still messing with the biggest reason that you make money. The biggest reason the NBA makes money is because of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Giannis and all the players that I'm talking about. Would you not want to do everything you could to help that situation? to help them play in the most amount of games. And I'm not saying that teams didn't take this to an nth degree. I'm not saying that they didn't take advantage of this. I get it, right? But there's a reason for it. And that's what I think the NBA is missing in this whole thing. There's a reason that they figured out that resting some of these players is good. They're not doing it just because. They're not doing it just to mess around. They're doing it because it helps them go win a championship. And is that not what the NBA wants? Their star players to win championships? Also, teams must maintain a balance between the number of one-game absences for a star player in home and road games. That goes back to Dame Lillard comes to Cleveland, I miss him, and things like that. Okay, here's another funny one. Teams must ensure that healthy players are still present and visible to the fans. What do you want to do? Have Darius Garland go up to the stands and start signing autographs? So basically, if we rest Darius Garland for a game, he still has to be there and on the sidelines. Oh man. The NBA has detailed several exceptions when a player can seek approval for missing back-to-back games. Oh my God, this is... Okay, so you can't miss back-to-back games unless you are 35 years or older and have a career workload of 34,000 regular season minutes. Dude, what? This is like the stupidest thing I think I've ever seen. Like, seriously, this is impressive stupidity, is what it is from the NBA. So apparently, you can't be massively hurt at 28 years old. That's what the NBA is saying. That they're saying that a guy that is 28 years old, Dame Lillard's 33. You don't think that he's pretty hurt, but he doesn't qualify for back-to-back games because he's not 35. Oh, okay, wait. Or career workloads of 34,000 regular season minutes. If a team feels a star player is unable to play in back-to-back games, it has to provide the NBA with written information at least a week prior explaining why the player shouldn't be out. Sounds like when your parents had to call the principal and lie about why you were sick. Did you get a doctor's note? No, my son was just home sick. Well, then it's truancy. It's truancy. Got to have a doctor's note. This is stupid. This is absolutely stupid. Other exceptions: bona fide injury, personal reasons, or rare and unusual circumstances. My car broke down. Flat tire. I didn't make it. I wasn't there in time. I think the NBA really screwed themselves with this. I really do. Like, I really think that this is something that is going to change. You want a guarantee on this show? Just like my Ohio State, Western Kentucky bet for this Saturday. Buckeyes minus. Did you see the line move, by the way? Yeah, it's up to 20. I got it up to 29. I have it at 27.5 or 28. I think it's moved a point or a point and a half. I guaranteed, by the way, that Ohio State will cover on Saturday. You want another guarantee? This rule will change. This rule will change after this season. And the other thing is the NBA has this deadline coming up because they have to sign some new network deals. So they'll get this done. They'll put this in place because they want it to be, on the up and up. They want the optics to all these, to TNT and ESPN and all that kind of stuff because they want them to sign this deal. I just, knowing as little as I know about the legal process, there is no way that this is actually enforceable. Or even legal. And I'm shocked, and I haven't seen anything from the PA yet, like the NBA PA. How can they be okay with this? There is no way that the players are fine with this. And frankly, I don't think the coaches and the teams are okay with this. And then, by the way, the NBA came out and said, we're going to add this midseason tournament too. We're going to put all this stuff in and start squeezing you a little bit on the regular season games outside of that. I think it's stupid. I really, and the problem is that it is going to impact the Cavs because, again, there were 15 teams in the NBA, half the league, that has multiple all-stars or all-NBA teams within the last 3 years, and that is Cavs are one of those teams. So, and granted, it's just those three. And At least they're finding this out now. I mean, granted, the season starts in about a month and a half, but I'm sure that the Cavs and the rest of these teams are going to sit down and go through the schedule and go, okay, we're going to sit Donovan here and we're going to have this and we're going to map it out. But the biggest problem with that is injuries are unknown, right? Somebody could get banged up. And I guess the part of this rule is that if you have a bona fide injury, they're going to let that swing. But the same thing, like knee tendonitis or a long-standing injury that you've been dealing with, it's different than you got kicked in the shin. Like, that just happened. But what happens when you're dealing with knee tendonitis or something serious? That it's just not a reoccurring injury, but it's just something that you have. Like, how does the NBA deal with that? I think they're hurting themselves.
Could you imagine this rule being forced back when Kevin Durant was on the Warriors? Because you would have 4 stars by that definition.
Yeah. Right. And that's, I mean, is that something of dissuading teams to put star players together? And we've seen that shift in the NBA anyway. But I think this is crazy. I think this is absolutely crazy from the NBA. I think it's a bad idea. I really do. And not just because it impacts the Cavs. Like, I think it's a bad idea for the NBA. All right, we're late for the morning update. We'll get to that. We have Time Hop coming up. Plus, we have to make our wagers for this evening on Thursday Night Football. Okay, tease number 2 for our guest. We have our first ever in-studio guest tomorrow here on the show. My first tease was of me being a lifelong Clevelander. He's one of the most athletic people I've ever seen. Played the sport that he's... Okay, so there's your second one. He played a sport. He was an athlete. Former athlete on the collegiate and professional level. So we'll explain all that. We'll give you some hints, and at the end of the show, we'll tell you who it is. But we'll get to the morning update, all the stories, all the news that you got to know. We'll get to that next. Big Play, iHeart app, YouTube, and social media. All right, we got the stories you got to know. We call it the morning update. Producer Ryan's got them. Take them. We got to get into robots this morning a little bit, maybe here on the morning update. We talked aliens yesterday.
You know
we'll
we're going to get into aliens and now today's robots, but we'll get to that. We'll start today with a little more Aaron Rodgers news. So he posted on his Instagram after his devastating season-ending Achilles injury. He posted, "I'm completely heartbroken and moving through all of the emotions, but deeply touched and humbled by the support and love. Please keep me in your thoughts and prayers as I begin the healing process. The night is darkest before the dawn, and I shall rise yet again."
Dropped a little Batman reference there. Yeah, I mean, I feel bad because there's a point where, like, even Garrett Wilson said it when he got hurt, and Aaron Rodgers came over to him, and he's like, "I'm sorry, kid." And that's, it's a little romanticized. It's a little out there. Like, he's coming back. I think everybody's talked about that. I don't think there's any way that he walks away from the Jets, from the money that he's owed. Yeah, he's a little bit older, but, modern. Dude, I think it's absolutely insane to see some of these recoveries. Like, even on the Browns, Sione Takitaki tore his ACL. Was that November? He's back on the football field playing in September. Like, and I know Achilles and ACLs are all different and every injury is different, things like that. But yeah, these aren't injuries that even 15, 20 years ago, they were career enders. They didn't know how to fix them at the time. Now, I mean, how much money has James Andrews made on fixing ACLs and fixing, Tommy Johns and UCLs and all that kind of stuff? So I would imagine that he'll get the surgery and they'll approach it like there's not even any money to be made. He will be back. He's playing for the Jets next year. It sucks. They try to pick up the pieces of what this team is going to be. They still have some talented guys there, but, in a way, I feel bad for Aaron Rodgers. I don't want to see anybody go down like that.
Already, the Netflix golf documentary series Full Swing won't have full access at the Ryder Cup. U.S. Captain Zach Johnson says he spoke to all 12 players on his team, and there were concerns raised about a film crew in the team rooms. Quote, "It's part of being a team, right? Netflix has been great for the game. They're doing great things, but the team collectively decided there are areas of privacy that need to be respected." We're getting in a kind of new era like we've seen with the quarterback documentary where Netflix has access to basically all this inside information and areas.
I want to talk about the golf. I'm glad you brought it up, but the quarterback one, they can't find anybody to do it. Have you been reading that? So they did season one. Mahomes was on it because I think he was probably the biggest draw. Like Kirk Cousins, I didn't watch it. Or his cousin signed up for I don't know, whatever. Because it's Peyton Manning. It's Omaha Productions doing this Netflix quarterback documentary. They can't get anybody to sign up for it. And in a world where cameras are everywhere and social media and you're following, yet there needs to be some kind of drawn off. I watched Full Swing the first season. I thought it was cool. Brooks and Spieth and Justin Thomas. While I'd like it to be at the Ryder Cup, it's the right call. The Ryder Cup's different. I'm not saying that there's unsavory conversations or thing like that, but it's a true team format, and I want Team USA to win. So if it is going to be a distraction in any way, no. And I think there's a little sanctity to the Ryder Cup. It's like Augusta if you're a golfer. It's like the Masters. I kind of like that there's not all the access. I'll take all the access and other stuff, but there's something to the intrigue and the mystique and there's some things we'll never see, or there's some things just that we're not privy to that I'm okay with. And I think the Ryder Cup is one of those things. Ryder Cup's one of my favorite sporting events ever, So I'm super excited for this year. The team is an interesting, intriguing one, certainly. They put Brooks on there. They added Justin Thomas, when he really didn't deserve it. So it'd be easy. And here's the thing. They will have some access, just not full access. And that's fine. I think some access is better than none. We'll watch the Ryder Cup whenever the season comes out of Full Swing that includes the Ryder Cup. I think a lot of people watch. You don't need all the access. You don't need everything. So I'm okay with it.
And back to quarterback, there was a little bit of news yesterday. They actually did get one quarterback to agree, their first one for season 2, and that is Matthew Stafford.
Ooh. I mean, late in his career, I'm assuming he's getting paid. So I'll take that little check. Why not?
Already in the basketball world, Giannis Antetokounmpo agrees with Noah Lyles about his comments about being world champions. He said he received so much backlash for saying the obvious.
What do you put more? For this season, sure. For this year, for this calendar year, sure, because there's no Olympics. You want to change it to something else, or you want to do it another way? Sure, fine. But I think everybody would because that's the other thing. The world champion technically are the NBA champions, right? So, like, when you sit there and when you add up all the different tournaments that you can play, all the different things, like, it's different. You know what I mean? Like, it's different on the world champion side of it. So that's hard, because if you want to look at FIBA and the Olympics versus being in the NBA, that's the whole point of this argument is, why do you call it, like, the Chiefs call themselves the world champions and there's no NFL played anywhere else, right? The NBA, there are other leagues, but you know the NBA is the best. Like, would any Chinese basketball league, would any European league be able to come beat an NBA team? No. So that's why you call them world champions. Would Germany, FIBA, would they beat Team USA? I guess they could beat Team USA, but would they? I don't know. I guess I get the point about it's for argument's sake of, you won the United States trophy, you're not the world champions. I think it's kind of missing the mark. They're the best team. It's the best league. I'm fine calling them world champions.
Alrighty, now. I don't think many people saw, at least I didn't until it came onto Twitter, but the Chargers debuted robot fans at SoFi Stadium on Sunday. And if you got the chance to see the video, it looks pretty creepy.
It is, and then I don't understand. So the robot fan, is this something that they were supposed to be, people can watch through this person?
I believe it was for a movie promotion.
Oh, a movie
Which
promotion.
movie that is exactly, I'm not sure.
Yeah. They're promoting a movie called The Creator, which hits theaters coming up. It's a futuristic war between humans and robots. How many movies have we, like... That's another story for another day. But a lot of people have had that idea that, yeah, eventually the world that we get in, which is funny because you watch movies or you think how the world's going to be in 15 or 20 years and is ever really as advanced as you thought it was going to be. We will never go to games again physically, right? We're going to pay money and we take over a robot that sits in the stands, and when we turn our head left, that robot turns left, and when we turn right, there is something that you will just never change of being at the game, though. And that's why I think live sporting events, and to a point, live concerts, and I've watched concerts, via stream. Obviously, we all watch games. They're different. There's something about being there, being in the seat, being in the arena, being at this field that won't change. But yeah, it's also like just how much it's funny in a way to see how these teams sell out. And not just a team, but the NFL, anybody that throws any money at them, NASCAR, right? They named races after movies. Like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, when that movie came out, they had a race in NASCAR a couple of years ago that was literally like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 400 or something like that. It's all about marketing. It's all about the money, and the NFL loves it. It's coming soon, though, is going to be jersey patches. I read an article about what they evaluate, the valuation of what jersey patches would be on NFL teams. Millions. That'll be next.
Alrighty, a little injury report for Thursday Night Football here. The Eagles will be without Kenneth Gainwell, cornerback James Bradbury, and safety Reed Blankenship. Defensive tackle Fletcher Cox with a rib injury is also listed as questionable.
We will get our wagers on that coming up a little bit later with our friends at Tipico. Use the code BIGPLAY150 when you sign up at Tipico. Vikings, Eagles tonight. It is in Philly. I've got Philly on a big 6-liner there as the favorites. We'll get to that. I'll get you some of the trends on that coming up. I think it's interesting that Philly kind of, they jettisoned Miles Sanders. They're going with Gainwell and Boston Scott. And who did they get in free agency?
Rashad Penny. Who did not play.
No, it was a healthy
last
scratch.
week.
Yeah, last week. I think they're going with the Chiefs model. We'll basically focus on our wide receivers and our tight end, and we'll kind of just piecemeal this with our running back situation. I could see that work. Gainwell was a hot pickup this week in fantasy football, too, by the way, for a lot of people. We'll see if he plays. I think that impacts the line a little bit. Not so much about Kenneth Gainwell, but definitely Bradbury. Because you're going to have Darius Slay on Justin Jefferson. And then you maybe open things up for I always get Alexander Madison and then
Jordan
Addison confused. Jordan Addison, the USC wide receiver,
who scored in his NFL debut.
I know. That could open up things just a little bit. Then again, if Fletcher Cox a little banged up, we'll get our picks a little bit later in the show. Stay with us on that. Tipico bet, Big Play 150. Use that code.
Already the last update here for the morning update, and it's a big one in the technology world. The iPhone 15 will have the USB-C slot, which is huge for MacBook users such as myself. I'm excited, Matt.
Well, okay, so explain to me why. Couldn't you just plug a USB? Or no, there's no way you could ever plug an iPhone into a Mac. No, you could do that, right?
You could find converters and whatnot, but just for simplicity's sakes.
It seems, I mean, because I thought it was like for Apple, and I'm not saying that there's not knockoff Apple chargers because eventually that just got let out. But yeah, they created a phone, and you would say we're going to create the charging, port for this. I'm not up in the tech. I've got a good friend of mine that he literally will buy he's buying the iPhone 15 when it comes out. He has the 14. He's going to buy the 15. And I'm like, bro, so you have a phone payment like every month? And he goes, yeah, pretty much. And I go, that's insane. Like, my phone is like my car. When I buy it, I will drive it or ride it until it dies. And I know the phone, eventually they start throttling it, and eventually they start, they got sued for that. And I tell you, the updates, they mess with you on purpose. They know when you're due for an upgrade, or really, frankly, I just paid this phone off. Like, I don't know, 2 months ago, right? And all of a sudden, it's not going quite as fast. Or all of a sudden, the Bluetooth's not quite working. I know the game. I get the game. I understand it. And I know that there are people out there that are, like, as soon as something comes out, they got to have the new one. They got to have this. I ain't there, man. I'm really not. So when I did see this and people were saying, like, how big it was to have USB-C for the iPhone, I'm just like, great. I do think there's also an element, and I'm sure Apple and Samsung and Google and all the phone companies would tell me different. How much more crap can they really do? Like, I have a phone here that there's nothing special about this phone. This is my kids on. There's nothing special about this phone, right? And I have a 4K camera, 128 gigs of memory, and apps for whatever I want. Got my Tipico app downloaded. Big Play 150. Got, Facebook, I got Instagram, I've got Twitter. I've got Time Hop, which we'll get to next. What else? Here's the funny thing, dude. I downloaded Threads because I thought we'd need it. That never happened. Whatever. Like, I literally have everything on this phone that I would ever need. What else could they do? So they had to come up with the next big innovative marketing thing. And obviously this was it. Like, we're going to add the USB-C to it. Get a bunch of people to sign up and buy this. I don't really care about a faster processor. That means nothing to me. Camera's fine. It gets done when it needs to get done. And I can buy more storage if I need it. So congratulations to everybody out there that's super excited about the iPhone getting the USB-C. I'm sure that's a big thing. All right, I don't know if that'll quite make Time Hop for next year, but we'll see. We'll jump into that when we return. I've got some Browns. I've got some Indians, Guardians. I've got some video game things, and I have one TV show for Ryan to guess on. We'll see how that goes. All right, hint for our guests tomorrow. We've been doing this all show. We have our first in-studio guest tomorrow on the show. I said that he was one of the most athletic people that I've ever seen living in Cleveland. He was a pro. He was a high school, college, and professional athlete. Hint number 3. Trying to see if there's something in the studio.
Should we give them the sport?
Sure. He's a football player. I'll tell you the teams maybe when we return. I was trying to say, like, there's something. I'll find something in break. I will find something in break for our next hint. But nonetheless, we'll jump into Time Hop. We'll tell you what happened this day in history. We'll do it next. Stay with us. Big Play right here on iHeart, YouTube, streaming live on social media. All right, let's jump right into it. We got the 14th of September, the date, 10:30 on the dot, right here on the Matt Fontana Show. Welcome back, Big Play, iHeart app, and as we always do, a little bit of time hop. We head back this day in history and tell you what happened, including 3 years ago today, we released a kicker. No, not that kicker, the other one. Austin Seibert let go from the Browns. It was very Cade York-like, Ryan. He kicked one game, they didn't like it, and they moved on. Who did they replace him with? Browns kicking.
Was it Greg Joseph?
Was it? You made it sound right. So I believe
We've been through so many kickers, man.
Dude, it's crazy. And I like Dustin Hopkins, and I pray that he's actually the answer. But, okay, let me see. Oh, man. I wish this could be by dates. Yeah, okay, so that era was like, Zane Gonzalez, Greg Joseph, Austin Seibert, Chase McLaughlin, and then obviously, oh, man. Holy cow. Do you just want the kickers since Phil? Brett Conway. Billy, I don't even know. 3 games. 7 out of 5. Billy Cundiff, Garrett Hartley, Travis Coons, Cody Parkey, Patrick Murray, Zane Gonzalez, Greg Joseph, Austin Seibert, Chase McLaughlin, and Chris Nagar made 1 field goal for the Browns. Cade York, Dustin Hopkins. That's the journey that we have been on. So the Browns released Cade York. They released Cade York. They did. But they released Austin Seibert 3 years ago today. Pretty big one this day, 2017. It's been 6 years since the Guardians won their 22nd straight game in walk-off fashion with
I was
Jay
at
Bruce.
that game.
What, it was a good game to be at.
I believe it was a Jay Bruce.
Jay Bruce walk-off on that. And, it's funny because I think you can say the same thing for the Cavs and the Guardians. And I apologize. Somebody had this on Twitter. I can't remember who it was. Might have been Ben Axelrod. Might have been Evan Damerol, Cavs podcast. Shout out to Ben, by the way. Ben Axelrod, new job over there at Awful Announcing. But they had the tweet where they go, don't forget that the 2016-17 Cavaliers was actually a more talented team than the 16 Cavs were. And you could say the same thing about the Guardian Indians. Like the 2017 Guardians Indians were way better than the 2016 Guardians Indians, and they went to the World Series. And 2017, obviously, 22-game win streak. Like for a lot of years, bounced out of the playoffs in round 1, but, it is what it is. This day, 2014, game 2 of the season, and it was Mike Pettine's first victory as a head coach as we beat the Saints 26-24. This day, 2014. The box score is an interesting one for you. So Brian Hoyer obviously got the start, 200 yards and a touchdown. Your leading rusher was Terrence West, if you remember him. He was supposed to be that two-headed monster with Isaiah Crowell. Your leading receivers, Andrew Hawkins, Miles Austin had a touchdown, and big play Gary Barnidge had 41 receiving yards. Your leading tackler for the Browns that day was Carlos Dansby. He's on that list of veteran guys that came here to steal money from the Cleveland Browns. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Carlos Dansby leading the way. For the Saints, we beat Drew Brees that day, 27 out of 42 touchdown and interception, as Mike Pettin gets his first career win as head coach of the Browns this day, 2014. This day, 2003, Jamal Lewis set an NFL record by rushing for 295 yards against the Cleveland Browns this day, 2003. Most infamously about that, we couldn't stop him, so we had to sign him, is what happened. They lost that game 33-13. Baltimore got it done. And let me see here. 30 carries, 295 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ryan, he rushed for a 9.8 yard per average carry.
He was a fantasy cheat code.
9.8. In the first quarter, he had 118 yards, 62 in the second quarter, a lowly 15 in the third, and 100 yards in the fourth quarter. If you just wanted to do the first and fourth quarters, he rushed for 218 yards that day. This day 2003. This day 2001, Ryan, did you own a GameCube? Did you have one?
I did. Me and my brother shared one.
It released, as anything with siblings, we had one. I had a Sega Dreamcast. We did get a PlayStation, so we had two systems, but you always had to share. The GameCube was released this day 2001. This day 1994, Bud Selig canceled the rest of the MLB season due to a player strike. It had been going on for 34 days. And it also marked the first time since 1904 that no World Series was held. This day, 1994. This day, 1990, the Griffies became the first father-son duo to hit a home run in the same game. This day, 1987, Cal Ripken's innings streak. So not games, because he kept the game streak going. But his innings streak ended at 8,248 innings. Basically, he played 908 straight games of every inning of every game, of every doubleheader, of everything. Now, he kept the game streak going because he would play in games, not necessarily finish them, but he kept the game streak going for a long time. This day, 1814, Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner. Where would we be without it? I don't know, because we hear it often. A very happy birthday goes out to former NBA coach Larry Brown. Frosty Rucker, again, veteran guy stealing money from the Browns, but an all-time name, of course, Frosty Rucker. Jimmy Butler, golfer Tony Finau. Hey, it's Deshaun Watson's birthday. Happy birthday to Deshaun Watson. Amy Winehouse, Nas, and Sam Neill. Do you think, well, we did Peaky Blinders. Do you think of them in Jurassic Park or Peaky Blinders? Jurassic Park is the answer. All-time go. Roll. The new one sucked. I finally watched it. Horrible. Horrible. They should have just made the first two and been done. But that's neither here nor there. National Cream-Filled Donut Day today.
Ooh.
What's your favorite kind of donut?
I'm gonna go basic. It's glazed.
Glazed
You
with
can't
sprinkles.
go wrong.
You gotta
Can't
add
go wrong.
sprinkle. I'm a glazed with sprinkles. I like powdered sugar donuts. If it had, actually, I like a good Boston cream pie. I do. I like a donut, like very good. I don't mind a jelly donut. I think like anybody, I haven't met a donut I don't like. Donuts are delicious. Donut holes, all of it, delicious. So enjoy it today. One television show for you today, a TV show that debuted this day, 1985. My hint would be that it's my mom's favorite TV show, but you don't know my mom, so it doesn't really help. Or one of, anyway. I will just say, I thank you for being a friend.
I thank you for being a friend. Then it's a TV show.
It's a TV show.
I thank you for being a friend.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I thank you for being a friend.
Mm-hmm. Might be part of the intro to the show.
Matt, I don't know.
It's a tough one. I mean, it's a really famous show. Okay, I'll give you another hint. It is I'll say escapades because I can't really think of another word, of four older ladies.
Four older
ladies.
Is it the Golden
It
Girls?
is Golden
Oh,
Girls.
okay.
Well done. Nice job. Good rebound there from Ryan. Yes, because it opens. I'm not going to sing it because I don't want to sing it and get clipped everywhere. But I thank you for being a friend is the intro to Golden Girls. Yes. Golden Girls. This day, 1987. I was shooting from the hip. I don't think any of them are still with. I hate doing that. Because I think Betty White was the last one. Is Rue McClanahan still alive? No, she died. So yes, everybody. Unfortunately, all four of the Golden Girls are no longer with us. Debuted this day, 1987. Well done on that, Ryan. All right, let's get a break here. A little early on the break. When we come back, I want to get our Thursday night football bets in. We will announce who our guest is tomorrow. First in studio guest. I want to recap our Twitter question up at Matt Fontana Show. Who is the one team you enjoy beating the most out of the AFC North? Bengals, Ravens, or Steelers? Obviously, we already beat the Bengals. We're staring down the barrel of the Steelers come Monday night. And a couple of things just coming out here around the league we'll get to as well. Wrap it up here. We'll do it next. iHeart, YouTube, social media. It's Big Play. It's the Matt Fontana Show. Wrapping things up here on the Matt Fontana Show. Appreciate everybody joining us this morning. Catch the replays back on our social media channels at Matt Fontana Show, of course, on the iHeart app as well. We got to get to our bets for this evening, our Tipico. I've already had people guessing on who the guest for tomorrow is. It is a football player. It is not Josh Cribbs. Josh is a show. It's not like just saying, it's not Josh Cribbs. I said it was one of the best athletes I've ever seen. High school, college, and pro football player. The hint that I was going to look for in here was something Ohio State. Because this player played at Ohio State. There's another hint. We'll announce it later in the show. And like I said, we'll get to our picks tonight for Thursday Night Football. But wanted to check our last results here at Matt Fontana Show. We're asking everybody, of all the opponents in the AFC North, which one do you enjoy beating the most? 73% of the vote, Steelers. It's been that way like all morning. Cujo tweets, I just want to look like a real NFL team. We have no rivals outside of flags. He said we have no rivals outside of flags, alcohol, media, Medina roads, and balconies. What's wrong with the roads in Medina? What did they ever do to you?
What did balconies do to us?
I don't know. Bill tweets, one of my favorite days as a Browns fan was the 51-0 opener over Pittsburgh in '89, but I voted Ravens because I'm sick of their revisionist history on the move that the Baltimoreans spew. Let Modell let Cleveland keep the name. Come on, man. Now, that's another thing, too, of like their did you see those Oilers throws back? Can we get rid of the Houston Texans, please? The Titans are the Titans. Let Houston have the Oilers, please. The Texans suck. And I know that's also like a legacy team back in the day, but I digress. That's something for another day. No, I mean, I think when it comes to the Steelers, that usually is going to be the answer. Like, I think that's something that as you look at all three of the other teams in the AFC North, and here's the thing, you dislike each one of them for a different reason. I think the respect factor, I think the thing going back to the Steelers, that's the one that people want to be the rival, right? As much as we dislike Baltimore or as much as we don't like Cincinnati, the best is when we are rivals with Pittsburgh. When we are upset and mad at Pittsburgh, that's the best. Like those are the best teams that we have. And it usually, coincides with the fact of that Pittsburgh is usually a really good team. Not saying that Baltimore or that Cincinnati aren't from time to time. But we'll see. I don't know. Like, I think Monday is going to be a huge test. I think it's going to be harder than people think. But I still think the Browns are going to be able to find a way to get it done. I just do. Speaking of tonight, let's make our wagers. Tipico, download the app today. Big Play 150 is the code. You get $150 in free bets, including an extra $30 for futures bets. Terms and restrictions apply. Check it out. Tipico.com. Tipico.com. Enter the code BigPlay150 for new customers to get signed up on that. Tonight, I have it at 6. Ryan, that's where I've got it. Minnesota taking on Philly tonight. I want to see, because the other thing I love about Tipico, they have great boosts, including the Guardians boost that was about to hit yesterday but didn't. I love it because you can go to Tipico and they'll do the game lines, which you can obviously make the over-unders. See what we got for tonight. So open things up here. Tipico app.
There's a great boost that Tipico boosted a plus 245, and it's called Viking Funeral.
Oh, I like that.
Devontae Smith to score a touchdown, and the Eagles win.
All right, I like that. Jordan Addison to score a touchdown is boosted to plus 235. And for any player, how about this? Any player to record 100 rushing yards or just 100 rushing yards, it's boosted to plus 350. That's an interesting one. Jalen Hurts is the favorite as an anytime touchdown score at minus 115. Alexander Madison is plus 110. Justin Jefferson plus 110. DeAndre Swift plus 140. A.J. Brown plus 120. Devontae Smith plus 160. We are set at an even 6. You know me, I like the hook. I'd like 6.5 here if I can get it. Over-unders at 49. Money line Vikings plus 220. Eagles are minus 260. Let's look at some of the trends here. I will start with the Vikings. Obviously, they had a shocking loss to Tampa Bay in week 1. In their last 10 games, going back to last season, they are just 5-5. How about this, though, Ryan? In their last 7 games, they are a horrible 1-6 against the spread. And in those 7 games, they were only favored twice. So as a dog, in their last 7 games, they've only covered once in 5 opportunities. The closest that it would be was Chicago. Actually, I'm sorry, they were favored in that. Green Bay, they didn't cover. I mean, basically, the Vikings are bad at covering. They are just absolutely horrible at covering. Now, on the over-under, 7-3, the over is 7-3 in their last 10 games. Again, going back to last season, I know things are a little bit different. You flip it over for Philly. They are 5-5 in their last 10 games against the spread, 5-5 on the over-under. They're 7-3 overall, though, in their last 7 games. Of course, they played New England. They got the win by 5. They did cover by 3. This is a big 6. Now, I have a rule that I will impart to everybody here on the show. That usually Thursday night football for me is the under and the dog. I don't know why. I think the short week has a lot to do with it. I think crazy things happen. That's usually my rule. So as I look at it and I want to sit here and say Minnesota, I'm going to take them plus the 6. I'm going to put a $10 on that one. $10 on the Vikings plus the 6. I don't know why. I don't necessarily like it. I think it's the short week. It's the Eagles got out to that big lead. They let New England kind of come back into it. The Eagles are going to win this game. Like, I don't think that they're going to lose this game, but I think they're going to win it by 3. So I'm going to take it plus the 6. I'll take the Vikings. And if I'm taking the over-under, honestly, on a big 49 one too, I'm going to take the under on that as well.
I'm going to ride with a plus 463 parlay.
Oh, okay.
It'll be I agree with you, Matt. I'm rolling with Vikings plus 6. I think Kirk primetime, I love to see him. He always kind of balls out, but then we know what happens with Kirk in primetime. They let the game go. So I'm going to ride, though, the Vikings plus 6 as well as a Jordan Addison touchdown. I think he'll get 2 straight in his first 2 career games.
Kirk Cousins over a touchdown and a half. I kind of like, so again, if we're going to ride with the Vikings, you're assuming they're going to score some touchdowns. Kind of parlay that maybe. And I don't think you can parlay necessarily the spread, but if you want to go a little player prop, go over a touchdown and a half for Kirk Cousins passing. I kind of like that. I kind of like that Kirk Cousins one. Jalen Hurts over under a touchdown and a half, I think, is very interesting. I might stay away from that. Rushing yards, Madison is at 48.5, 46.5 for Jalen Hurts. Kirk Cousins over 3.5. One of the bet outlets that, there's a lot of handicappers out there that do it. And one of the ones I watch, their favorite thing is to take quarterbacks that have rushing totals under 5 and always taking the over. Because for him to hit 4 yards on the over, 1 scramble, and he can move a little bit, or it's 1 quarterback sneak that he just falls forward on that. I think it's pretty interesting. So there's our bets. Tipico, use the code BigPlay150 to get signed up for all new customers. Be waiting later today. Brown's going to be out of practice. We will hear from Deshaun Watson. Really, the nice thing is there's not too much to be surprised about for the Browns. We know Jack Conklin is injured. We know DeJuan Jones is going to be getting the start. And that's something that we'll certainly talk about tomorrow on the show, and certainly Monday. We'll have your pre-show coming up Monday before Monday Night Football. But that's one of the biggest things going into this game. You're going to have a rookie right tackle making his first start going up against TJ Watt. And I know that seems like a lot because it is, but it's also, I'm very intrigued to see what DeJuan Jones has going up against TJ Watt. And this is something where I'd imagine this week in practice, you put Myles Garrett over there on DeJuan Jones and you go, bro, go at him all week. Like, we need to get him up to speed. This is the hardest thing he's going to face. It's TJ Watt. And there's an element of you learn and you'll get better from it, but there's going to be time. They're going to help him out. They're going to help him out. Like, even if Jack Conklin was going to be in there, you're still helping out with a tight end, with a running back chip, and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't really change with DeJuan Jones. Might have a couple extra things over there. It's a hell of a test, and I'll be interested to see how they approach that come Monday, Ryan. But really, the nice thing for the Browns today, I don't really expect too much. We'll hear from Deshaun Watson coming out a little bit later. We'll play back some of that in tomorrow's show. But really, the nice thing is there aren't too many secrets right now with the Browns.
Does DeJuan Jones already have a top 5 nickname in the NFL? Big Thanos. Big Thanos. I love it.
I mean, it is. I think that, and the problem with him is for him to market that, he's going to run into probably a lot of lawyers from Marvel that are like, no, you can't have that. That's ours. That's ours. But Thanos is pretty freaking cool, man. I mean, he fits it. He's 6'7", 400, almost 400 on some pounds. He's dropped some weight too. He looks good. He looks like he dropped some good weight. That is a matchup, though, coming into Monday that I think is going to be absolutely massive. All right. We've gotten to this point. We'll take your final guesses if you want at Matt Fontana Show, at Matt Fontana 83 on Twitter. We have our first in-studio guest tomorrow here on the show at 10:15. The hints have been, me being a lifelong Clevelander, he's one of the most athletic people I've ever seen. High school, college, professional athlete, and he was a football player. And also played at the Ohio State University. And that would be the one, the only, Mr. Ted Ginn Jr. tomorrow, right here on the Matt Fontana Show. He'll be sitting right here. I can't wait to talk to him. Honestly, growing up in Cleveland, seeing what he did in high school, then seeing him at Ohio State, I'm super excited. And it's funny because Ted's only a couple of years older than me. But there's just something about it of like that era of Ohio State football and all that kind of stuff. So I can't wait to talk to Ted tomorrow. We'll obviously get his thoughts on Ohio State, where they sit, maybe dive a little bit into Western Kentucky. But still, I can't wait to ask Ted tomorrow his thoughts on that 2-quarterback system that they were trying to run at Ohio State. So he will be in studio tomorrow at 10 o'clock, 10:15. I think he'll actually be here. So if you have any questions, you'd always want to get something in, I'll be happy to take your questions coming up. At Matt Fontana Show, at Matt Fontana 83. So that'll be tomorrow. Ted Ginn Jr. will be here. We'll make our selections for the weekend as well. We'll get our Friday 14 parlay. And actually, a little scuttlebutt that we might be able to get that up with our friends at Tipico. So we'll get that bet put in and ready to go for tomorrow. Super excited for that. And I'm really super excited to have Ted in studio as we gear up for a Friday. It'll be a little different just with the Browns not playing on Sunday. But it'll still be a lot of fun as we get ready for Monday Night Football. I really avoided talking about the Guardians all day, Ryan, because I've just been so upset at them. We had a Tipico parlay that was hitting. It was perfect, and then the bullpen just got it away. Padone had a hot take tweet about trading Emmanuel Clase. It's sad for me to say this. I am so done with baseball. I'm just, the season's over. They're not, it was funny, you and I were talking about this morning. Technically, they're not mathematically eliminated. They're just eliminated in every other way. They got an off day today. I don't really move past it. All focus on Thursday Night Football tonight. Both Ryan and I like the Vikings plus the 6. I'm going to take the under, and Ryan's got a nice little parlay going with anytime touchdown score. So get that with our friends at Tipico. Chico's coming up at noon. I do believe they have their fantasy football segment coming up, so check out Chico on Twitter.
CBS's own Eric Casellius.
There you go. So Big Play Chico on Twitter for Chico to get your questions in. They're going to do that coming up at 12:15 today. So again, Chico starts at noon every day, goes up until 2 o'clock. As always, stream us live on the iHeart app. Take it with you. You can get your replays there in the afternoon. Our show is always re-airs in the afternoon. And then, of course, the replays on Twitter and social media on the YouTube page as well. So drop us a subscribe at Matt Fontana Show. Drop us a follow at Matt Fontana Show on Twitter, at Matt Fontana 83 and Ryan Tyler 33. Another great show. As always, appreciate the support. Excited for tomorrow. We'll get our picks for the weekend. We'll get into some football. We'll get into some college. That'll all come your way on a Friday edition of the Matt Fontana Show, and Ted Ginn Jr. in studio tomorrow at 10:15. You will not want to miss it. Great stuff today. For producer Ryan, I am Matt Fontana, and as always, take it easy.